Hey, I'm Joe Mack. Welcome back to the channel. Today, let's talk about Before They Are Hanged, Book 2 from the First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. So this is my second audiobook of all time. We started our audiobook journey with The Blade itself, and I feel at this point the bar has been set so incredibly high by Stephen Pacey that other audiobooks might not work for me. We started this journey reserved. I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to comprehend all the information that I was being given, and it turns out that that's not the case. Not only am I remembering everything and I'm hearing every word that they're saying, but I feel like I'm experiencing the book in a way that I didn't before by just reading it. I think part of that has to do with Stephen Pacey's incredible narration, and now I'm worried on the other end that the books that I chose to start with are so well done that nothing else will live up to it. So fingers crossed that that's not going to be the case. Overall, I'm giving Before They Are Hanged a 5 out of 5. Thinking about it, there's nothing that I disliked about the book. The pacing was great, structure was great, characters were great, plots were great. I have nothing to say. This was a great book. The fact that it was a sequel is an even stronger point to be made for it, I think. I can't wait for book 3. Now the bar's been set up there, so book 3 has something to prove. It'll be weighed against this one, and if it doesn't live up to it, obviously can't get another 5 out of 5, but this was incredible. This was Empire Strikes Back level of improvement over the Blade itself. What I mean by that is sometimes these fantasy stories, space operas, epics of any kind, really, Book 1, sometimes, not all the time, Book 1 can sometimes be mostly world building. It's setting up the reader for what's to come. It's getting all that legwork out of the way so that the rest of the pieces that they write is all the action and everything else that they want you to get. And that does happen to be the case here. Book 1, I wasn't super high on. It was a good book. I enjoyed it thoroughly. But compared to book 2, book 2's insane. We had all these questions left over from book 1 in my previous review. Who are the Eaters? What's going on? What's the secret plot? What is Baez collecting all these pieces to his puzzle to do? And we're getting answers immediately. Like right away. The way that I view the book is skewed because I'm not flipping and seeing chapters and page numbers, but I feel like right away we're getting answers to Eaters, we're getting answers to what we're doing, where we're going, and why. Going along with that, I think just right there, the pacing in this book is just as good as the last book, but for a different reason. In The Blade itself, I felt the pacing was wonderful because we got those breadcrumbs as we went, just feeding us just enough information to keep us interested, but never allowing us to get bored. In this book, we are just steamrolling ahead. So it's a different style of pacing, but just as good as it was before. With that being said, previously, one thing I didn't like about the structure, and once again, this is, from an audiobook perspective, is I felt like we were jumping points of view every chapter. Too much, and I was getting lost. It helped that obviously, there's actual different voices for these characters, but besides that, having to remember what person A was doing, and then person B is doing something, and then person C and person D, then jump back to A, then maybe a C and a B was too much. In this one, because we're in a party, we're getting a lot longer with the group. And within each of these chapters, it feels like we're getting a couple of different points of view from each of our characters. We're seeing what Jazal is thinking. We're moving over to Pharaoh. We're getting a little bit of Logan. It's much better in both of those aspects, I think, than to the last book. Since we've touched on characters, my rankings have changed. Previously, we had Baez and we had Glokta as my top 2, with Logan as a close third, and then everyone else was off to the side. Baez plummeted. I don't like he's there. He's sharing some stuff about his past, but he's way more of a jerk with not very many redeemable qualities in this one. Glokta still up top. West skyrocket. We have Jazal is much more tolerable, so he's better, not anything crazy. Pharaoh a ton better. Logan and Glokta now are my 1-2, and I'm putting West after this book as number 3. himself, if you will. Is that a spoiler? I guess technically, forget I said that. The plot is much more straightforward in this book as we travel with the gang on their way to the edge of the world. We are with West fighting against the armies of the North, and we are with Glokta in Dagoska. With that being said, spoilers, West and the battle in the North. The more that this story continues, the more it seems like, to me, what's the point of the war in the North besides serving as a plot device to remove most of the army from fighting against Gurgle? The other two plots deal with Gurgle. Baez and his gang are going to the edge of the world in order to acquire the seed so that Baez has the power to fight Khalul. Glokta is in Dagoska, charged with rescuing the city and not having it fall into Gurgle hands. So those are both Gurgle oriented, generally the same, specifically different. And then you have West in the North. So, I mean, there's another book, and book 2 has already fixed, answered, adjusted for everything that I could have said about book 1 in a negative light. So I'm just going to have to believe in book 3, believe in Abercrombie, and know that this is probably going to wrap up wonderfully. But right now, it feels like the war in the North is just a plot device to remove the army from the Union, from Adua. In what I'm pretty sure was chapter 33, we have West with the crew, the North crew, earning his title. And this was such an impactful chapter for me. I still get like an adrenaline rush thinking about that chapter right now. Stephen Pacey delivered it so well. West becoming furious, both emotionally and then earning that as his name from Black Dow was just the action scenes, the way that it was delivered and written and spoken to, narrated, was absolutely wonderful. That was the absolute peak of this book for me, was West fighting in the North. Previously, in a different video talking about Empire of the Damned, I went over how I don't like spicy scenes in books. There is a scene in Before They Are Hanged, and I enjoyed it. I thought that the way that it was done was classy. It made sense organically to occur in that moment with the characters and how it came about. The way that actions were described, body parts were described, so on and so forth, etc. You get the point. That was all fine for me. And this was another male author, so I guess it's just going to be on a case-by-case basis. Not that that was a big part. It is kind of for the characters moving forward from that moment, but, nothing that's changing any lives or anything. But yeah, just wanted to touch on that, and I'm growing as a reader. We change from time to time. I think that Before They Are Hanged is able to wrap up all 3 of its major plot lines very well. We have Glokta and his Dagoskan plot wrapped up. We are curious to see what's going to happen now that he is co-superior in Adua. We have West and the Northerners. I think that doing the Dogman point of view as the final scene with them again, just like he did in The Blade itself, is a little telling on what maybe to look for in the next book, and B, wraps up that plot line really well in a much more somber tone. I think that placing that in the order that Joe Abercrombie did was a nice touch. And then, last but not least, the gang at the edge of the world not find the seed. And, I personally is a hit or miss for me. I don't want that to just extend their plot when we're with them into like chase the object, carrot on a stick. And I do have a lot of faith in the way that these books have been written so far that that's not going to be the case. So with that being said, that's the lowest of the plotline endings for me, but I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. Obviously, there's one book left. It is a trilogy, so I expect to see all of this come to a head, all the characters come back together, and my guess right now is I'm going to say that, taking the fact that both princes have died and the king is going to die soon, that in the beginning of book two, Baez is preaching to Jezal about a leader and all these other things, that somehow Jezal is going to be a nominee for the king. So I'm looking to see if I'm right on that. So we'll touch back next video after we finish the next book and see if I was right or wrong. So did you guys think that Before They Are Hanged was that much better than The Blade itself? Do you find this to be a common occurrence in epic fantasy and sci-fi, that book one tends to be the lowest of the series? And is Stephen Pacey the greatest narrator of all time, or will I be happily surprised when I finally try another series for audiobooks? Get in those comments. Let me know. Love you. Bye. I'm looking forward to everything that's coming in the next book. I'm going to cut this last thing after I talk about what my guess is.